All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're excited to have you with us. As you guys know, my name is Ginger. I'm the Executive Director of Connectionology. And I want to give everybody a minute to just log in to join us. But we have an incredible webinar planned for you today. You're going to learn all about the intake process, plus so much more. I know you're going to have great questions and we want you to ask them. So be sure to put those in the Q&A box or the chat box. I'll keep an eye on those for you guys today. Then also at the end of this webinar, you will get a copy of Shivangi's slides, as well as a wonderful brochure about Walker Advertising and all of our other amazing partners. You're going to be meeting my good friends at OnPoint Legal Nurse Consulting, HMR, as well as Fox AE. And I just want to thank you guys so much again for supporting them, because in return, it supports us so we can keep doing these great webinars for you. And I do want to just make a quick announcement that our next live seminar is going to be May 8th through the 9th, and that is going to be in the beautiful state of Idaho, because we are going there for our 4th annual traumatic brain injury webinar and seminar series. We got some great speakers. John Romano will be finishing up the agenda, and I'll be releasing that shortly, but be sure to save that date in case you would like to come with us. I'm going to go ahead now and introduce our wonderful moderator that we have today. This is my dear friend, Mary Lou with Walker Advertising. She is a pioneer in the industry, you guys. She has been around for so long, and she knows the best people across the country, the best firms, the best trial lawyers. She's introduced me some incredible people. But when I think of Connectionology, I definitely think of Mary Lou, because she knows how to connect people. She is a senior account business development representative at Walker Advertising, and she has been there since 1986. Is that right, Mary Lou?
Yeah.
And you have built probably, I would say, many multi-million-dollar firms over your long-standing partnership with Walker Advertising. I remember not long ago, you were at our Texas seminar that we did in Fort Worth, and John Romano had you up there and he was interviewing you. I couldn't get over the things that you were helping. You were teaching all of our attorneys, and these are bits of information that they were able to bring back to their firms and just totally turn them around. When I think of somebody who's giving great advice and tips, you're at the forefront of that, Mary Lou. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me and for everyone that you know. In addition to over 38 years of experience, I know that you've provided a lot of training and a lot of scaling of all of the departments, and you've helped build a lot of these law firms across the country. You're incredible, and I'm just so glad that we have you here today. It is an honor, and I'm very excited to hear what Shivangi is going to be teaching us, because this is an important topic that I think a lot of people, they need a little bit of a help in. So we're excited to have you both with us today. I'm going to hand the webinar
Thank
over
you.
to you guys, and let's have a good time.
Thank you. My pleasure in being here. I have the honor today to introduce our attorney, Shivangi, and she is licensed in 4 states, not only in one, in 4 states: Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. She specializes in personal injury development for offices. She goes in and she does train in offices how to do the very best and leverage your offices to the next level. She has a great presentation on intake, and we are ready to hear this fantastic presentation.
Thank you so much, Mary Lou, and thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate you guys coming to the webinar, and I'm hoping I can make your Thursday afternoon a little bit more exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Mary Lou, can you tell me if you can see my screen, or Ginger? Make sure I did it right.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Amazing.
Let's
So something we didn't tell all of you is you're getting a twofer. So you're here about intake, but actually you're here about dating as well, hence the name Connectionology. We're going to give you a twofer for your presentation. We're going to talk about intake and dating, so you're getting a lot out of your Thursday afternoon. Because stick with me here, intake is just like dating. When you're dating someone, you're on those dating apps, you're going to the bar or the restaurant, you're considering whether you want to or should invest in a person. Your time is valuable, their time is valuable. sometimes you don't really want to go out on a Friday night, or you want to get on your PJs and stay home. So if you have to get dressed, go out, you want to see, is this going to be worth my time and worth that person's time? Intake is the exact same way. Intake is considering whether you're going to invest in a client and their case before you spend time, resources, money, because you want to make sure you can actually help that person. It's one thing for a law firm to look at a case and decide, is this a case that we should take? Is this a case that makes sense for us to move forward with? But at the same time, we want to respect the time of that potential client and their time that they're going to spend on their case. So it's really from both ends thinking about what makes the most sense. And where does everything start? Someone asks you if they can take you to dinner. The first date, listening is key. If you are listening to someone, you aren't thinking about what your response is going to be. This is true in life, in dating and intake, in every aspect, right? When someone's talking, it's really important to slow down and hear what they're saying. Because if you're thinking and formulating a response, you're not taking it all in. So on a first date, listening is key. It's the same thing with a potential client. Potential clients call into a law firm, and unfortunately, we're not where they want to be calling. No one ever calls a law firm and goes, "Hey, I'm so excited to talk to you on this Monday afternoon. I was just rear-ended and my car is totaled and I don't know how I'm going to get to work tomorrow and my back is killing me. But so nice to talk to you," right? That call never happens. We have to remain positive and, enjoy our work and what we're doing, but no one's calling and excited to call a law firm. So it's really important that to keep that in mind, because potential clients are calling during a terrible moment in their lives. They have been in a crash, something terrible has happened. They are injured, their car is totaled, whatever it may be. They want to tell their story and they want to feel understood. That is extremely important. And it's very important from the intake side that we acknowledge that we acknowledge how they're feeling, and we want them to feel heard and believed in that moment because they need comfort. But as I'm sure everyone on here knows, you could be on these calls for hours and hours and hours if there was no limit, because potential clients can talk your ears off, right? They'll tell you about every little detail about the crash, about their lives, about anything and everything. So it's extremely important to narrow the conversation, but with compassion when you're approaching that call, that first call with a potential new client. So you're really listening, but you're also narrowing, because clients can talk for a very long time. How do we do that, right? I can ask anyone, were you injured? No, I'm fine, but my car was totaled, right? How many times have we heard that? Hey, I'm injured, but my car, that's what I'm focused on. Think about the difference between these questions. Were you injured? Do you remember what happened immediately after the crash? You said your airbag deployed. How's your chest? Did you black out immediately after? Do you remember what you heard? Your left arm, you said it hit the door. How's that feeling? Those specific targeted questions allow you to figure out what you need to know. If you ask a potential client, it's happened to me, one of the firms I was at, we would be on call for intake hours for the attorneys in case calls needed to be escalated. If you ask a client, did you lose consciousness as you're going through your intake questionnaire, right? We all have it. We're going through just line by line, kind of mindlessly filling that out. Did you lose consciousness? No. You ask a client, do you remember what happened immediately after the crash, immediately after impact? Did your head jolt forward? Did you hit the steering wheel? Oh, I don't remember exactly what happened after. I think I blacked out for a second, but I didn't lose consciousness. That's a conversation I've had with a potential client. Ding, 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 as the attorney, as the intake rep, they blacked out for a second. That tells me notate, 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 star, star, star. Think about neuro, think about a concussion, think about a TBI. You want to think about those things. Those are value drivers. That's extremely important to ask. If you just ask, like you're following down your checklist, did you lose consciousness? They say no, and you move on to the next question. You might not get that information ever. And the reason it's so important to listen to the details while narrowing the conversation with compassion for the info you need at this phase is because the day that a potential client calls in is the day with the most accurate, most times, information. Because that's the
Yes.
closest, exactly, in time, right? Mary Lou, if I ask you what you ate for breakfast 2 weeks ago versus what you ate today, it's your memory on that's going to be a little bit different. And so you really want to think about that time is so critical to get all of the information that you need. So you go on a date, you meet someone, they ask you to go to dinner, you reluctantly agree. It's a setup. But we all have our deal breakers, right? Our non-negotiables. Do you have a full-time job? Do you live in your parents' basement? What are your dreams and aspirations, right? We all have these non-negotiables. Intake, same idea with a potential client. And just like in dating, and just like in intake, you're not always going to have a clear-cut answer, right? If you've got a potential case with everything clear cut, I was hit by a drunk driver, I already have the police report, I need surgery on my back because of X, Y, or Z, I already have all the records and bills. You can just get a demand out. Everyone wants those cases, right? Amazing, quick, get them treated, get them feeling better, get the demand out, get the case settled. Easy. But that's not the reality. When you're dating, you're getting to know someone. You're trying to figure out what your deal breakers were in the beginning. And then as you get to know them, are they truly deal breakers? At the intake level, there are 3 buckets you always want to keep in mind. These 3 buckets are super important because while you may not get a clear-cut answer for every bucket, that would be great if you could, but while you might not, it helps you think about what you need to be thinking about getting to that place of sign up. Who is at fault? Who is going to pay? Has there been any medical treatment / is this person going to treat? Who is at fault? Why is this important? Who's the bad guy? Who are we going after, right? If our client's at fault or the potential client's at fault, there's likely not much that we can do. Now, exceptions obviously exist in that, how much at fault they are, so on and so forth. But if they were the drunk driver and they ran into a tree and got injured, that's a very different conversation. But who's at fault? Is there a bad guy we can go after? A company? Someone else? Did someone lend their car to someone else and we have a negligent entrustment claim? These are things you want to think about. Who is the bad guy, right? Where's the liability fall? Number 2, who's going to pay? Source of recovery. This is huge. Are you going to know right off the bat? Often you might not. That person may not have insurance themselves. They may not have UM, UIM. The person who hit them may come out and say, sorry, I didn't have insurance. If you stop the conversation there, imagine this. You're going through your intake guidelines, your questions, and you ask the questions exactly as it's written on your paper. Do you have insurance? Yes. Do you have UM, No. Did the other driver have insurance? No. Oh, sorry, we can't help you. You left a lot of holes. Why? The person said they don't have UM. Do they live with anyone? Is there another insurance policy that could apply? Does anyone else live with them, right, in their household? Number 2, asking yourself, the other guy said they didn't have insurance. I had a case where an 18-year-old young guy, fresh out of high school, going to college, T-boned my driver. Very young, said, sorry, I don't have insurance. Crash report said there wasn't insurance. Sure, a really nice vehicle. We looked up his home address was registered to his parents. Guess what? His parents had insurance. You have to ask those questions and know to probe. Because while on the surface, it might be, oh, there was no insurance, there's nothing I can do. It's really important to probe. His parents may have insurance. He could be the excluded driver. Maybe they don't have insurance, right? There's a million things, but you don't end the conversation there. He said he didn't have insurance, can't do anything. Sorry. You have to continue and probe. So even though you won't have a definitive black and white answer all the time, you'll have those little spokes of areas to look into further. And number 3, medical treatment. It is great if they've had medical treatment, right? I went to the emergency room. The ambulance came and took me. All of that's great. But the reality is our adrenaline's pumping through us after something traumatic happens at times, right? We're not thinking, oh, I need to get into the ER. I'm a little sore, but I'll feel better in a few days. That's often the mindset of these potential clients and these cases that we take because they're more concerned with they had family members in the car who were injured. They're more concerned with my car's totaled and I can't get to work tomorrow. What am I going to do? They often put their health and their medical at the very bottom. So it's important to realize just because they haven't had any medical treatment yet doesn't mean they don't have a case. Are they willing to treat? Are they open to that? And always ask yourself, what is any hindrance they've run into, right? I can't treat. I'm too busy with work. Okay, what are your hours? Well, Monday through Friday, I'm at work until 5 o'clock. Okay, maybe you can look at clinics after hours, in the evenings, in the mornings. You can look on weekends. Telehealth, do you get a lunch break? Those are options. I've worked with clients who live in extremely remote areas, just middle of nowhere. Honestly, I have to drive an hour and a half to get into a real grocery store kind of thing. I have my pediatrician in town, no one else. Okay, Let's set up transportation, get them in for that initial visit, that initial consultation, get the imaging done, and maybe we do telehealth for some. Is it great? Is it ideal? Does everyone love telehealth visits? Not always, but the reality is, how do we troubleshoot? You're not going to have the answers to that at the intake, right? But you want to have those conversations to get a feel. Have they had any medical treatment? Are they willing to get medical treatment? I will tell you 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, people are willing to get medical treatment, but you need to talk to them about it. You can't take answers at face value. Are you willing to get medical treatment? No. Sorry, questionnaire is done. We can't take your case. That's not how you do intake. You're having a conversation. Understanding the why is so important because it allows you to troubleshoot, bringing anyone else in, getting them signed up, telling them the benefits they have. We are going to make your appointments for you. We want to make sure you're okay. Right now, maybe you have adrenaline pumping through you. What's the worst that happens? You go to an appointment and you're feeling okay? Great. Maybe you go to an appointment and your pain doesn't go away. This is your one opportunity to get checked out really thoroughly. So a lot of these are just conversations and jumping into the why, especially the medical treatment. They're not one-word answers. Who's at fault? The other guy. Who's going to pay? No one. There's no insurance. Stop the conversation. You could have lost a potentially great case because you didn't probe. And that is so incredibly important at this phase, that initial call for that conversation. So nowadays, it's not the same as it used to be. I think this really changed, especially around COVID. Often, I mean, some people still do. They go to bars and restaurants, they meet people, they get set up, but very often we're swiping left or right on dating apps, right? Very common way to date nowadays, and all the online dating websites as well. And you're trying to determine if this person's a good fit. And on those dating apps, you just see often a few photos, a few, sarcastic comments or tidbits or jokes, and you're making a pretty quick decision. Intake is the exact same way. You're not sleeping on it. You're not thinking, let me think about this case and decide if I want it, right? You have cases. If you're working in intake, you're getting calls on calls on calls on calls on calls. You are busy. You are very, very busy, so much so that sometimes lunch gets pushed to the back burner. You're eating while you're taking calls, or you're taking calls in the evening because, as everyone knows, crashes don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen all the time. So you're busy and you're determining in a short span of time, is this client a good fit for the firm? Are we a good fit for the client, right? There's 2 things to keep in mind. Know the guidelines and know the threshold value. Guidelines. Are there certain areas of your firm where you're looking? For example, one firm would tell all of their intake staff, we only take premises liability cases that are valued at $250,000 or higher. That was because premises cases are tough. You spend a lot of time. Often you're going to have to litigate. You're going to have to spend money on experts. And that firm decided to not spend too many of their resources on there unless they really had a strong case. You're not going to know if a case is worth $250,000 100% on day one, but you'll have an idea, right? Is it commercial? Obviously. Is it a broken bone? Is it surgical? You're going to ask those things. You're going to want to know those guidelines. You're not going to want to spend an hour on the phone with someone. You've just been on the phone with them for an hour and then you find out at the end, and you just find out about their injuries at the very end. And I wasn't even that hurt. I'm completely fine. No injuries, no worries there. You're going to want to know those guidelines and get them from the start. You're going to want to listen to them, but remember your buckets and what you need to probe into, because you don't want to find that information out at the end, because then they've wasted their time telling you everything when you could have cut that conversation shorter and directed them to a better fit. And number 2, know the threshold value, which is also what that goes to, right? Maybe some firms are only taking minimum limits cases, and they're taking everything, minimum limits and higher. In Texas, that's $30,000 or higher. We take it all. Other firms might have $100,000. You want to keep that in mind. And also, going back to guidelines for a moment, you don't want to be on the phone for an hour and then find out, oh, and workers' comp told me X, Y, or Z, and you're like, we don't even take workers' comp. What did I just do? You want to get the information you need for your firm. Know your guidelines and your threshold. That goes back to that very first slide, right? Tailoring the conversation. Often within 5 minutes, for most cases, not all, you'll know if you're signing that case. And the way to do that is think about those 3 buckets while thinking about, what are my guidelines and my threshold? What do I need to consider for this firm and the firm that I'm at? Sometimes you start dating someone and they want to talk all the time. It's very annoying. They text you, they call you, they email you, they want to see you all the time. And you're like, gosh, I am busy. I work. What do you do with your time? I can't talk to you all day. So same thing with a potential client. Honestly, maybe worse. Potential clients want to speak with an attorney all the time. You're just an intake rep. You don't know anything. You can't help me. You don't understand. I want to speak with the attorney, and I want to speak with the attorney right now, and the exact attorney who's going to be on my case and take my case to trial because I'm going to trial unless I get $5 million. We've all heard those calls, right? I know everyone's probably, at their computers having PTSD of the trauma that they felt from those calls, right? So you have to do a few things because they're going to want one of two things. They're going to either want to talk to the attorney a lot, or they just want to talk to you every second of every day. What's changed? What's happened? What's new on my case every single day? And as we all know, you can work on a case every day, but that doesn't mean something's changing. So when they want to talk to an attorney, number one, this is one of the most important points of this slide. Understand their urgency and empathize. Don't just get frustrated and say, oh, gosh, everyone wants to talk to an attorney. I'm so used to this. This is annoying. This is a really big deal in this person's life. They've just been hit, their car's totaled, their car maybe needs to sit in the repair shop. There's a million things, right? They're injured. This is a super inconvenience. Imagine you are driving after work today and you're like, I have great big plans this weekend. Life's going to be great. Boom, you get hit. That does put a damper in your plans, right? It's not what you were planning for. No one's planning for that to happen. So understand their urgency and empathize. It's a big deal. And you also want to explain to them that your attorney is taking your case seriously. You're not just pushing paper, right? I've had potential clients tell intake reps, you're just pushing paper. You don't really know anything. You're not taking my case seriously. I need to speak with an attorney right now. This is super important. You can't help me. So you need to explain to this potential client that you have no issue setting up a call and a meeting with that attorney. And if you can set up that time and date while on the call with them, I have the calendar open right now. That's even better because then they're getting what they want. You want to talk to an attorney? You want to talk to your team? Perfect. We're good. I just need to get the preliminary information. If I don't get the preliminary information, the attorney is going to spend valuable time with you where you could spend them asking questions, going through the basics. So your crash happened on the 9th. Okay, where did it happen? It happened in Houston. And what happened again? Walk me through the crash. Do you want to spend your time on a call with an attorney doing that? Or do you want the attorney to have all of that preliminary information, review it, and then come to your call super prepared? That changes the conversation. We're doing that because the attorney values your time. You're busy. You were just involved in a crash. What happened to you is terrible. I don't want to waste your time. The attorney doesn't want to waste your time. When you flip that script, I've had tones change miraculously. They appreciate it. Well, yeah, I want to get you all the information. And you explain that you're following an established process that works, right? The reason we do it this way is our attorneys are often in depositions and hearings, they're in court, they're, doing a million things. They have cases they're working on. And I want to make sure that I get everything perfectly packaged for you for the time that you get to the attorney. And then the attorney can answer all of the questions you have. Attorneys have limited time, but so do you. I want you to focus on healing and getting better and having the most productive conversation with the attorney and getting the opportunity to ask all of the questions you have. When you flip that script, night and day, that conversation switches and they're a lot more willing to talk to you about the basics. And a second point to this as well is at Walker, one of the things we do, we'll talk about it a little bit later as well, is we're a lead gen company, so lead generation. The reason that's important is when we're doing any transfers for a lead that comes into a firm, an email gets sent out. You have all the information, the basics, right? The date of the crash, where it happened, are they injured, so on and so forth. To show that client, especially with the Walker lead, that you appreciate their time and value it, what you do not want to do is say, can you tell me the date of the crash? Can you tell me your email address? Can you spell me your first and last name? You want to confirm and verify rather than re-ask. Oh, I'm so sorry that I see that you were involved in a crash last Wednesday in Houston. It looks like you were T-boned and you hurt your back. Is that correct? You want them to feel like everything they've said has gone somewhere. That's helpful from a Walker lead or any intake rep going with the case all the way to the attorney. As the attorney, when I'd get a case, I would hate to ask a client, oh my goodness, they'd be so mad and so pissed at me if I asked them again, wait, what date did your crash happen? Could you imagine? You've been through something traumatic. You just told this intake rep everything, and the attorney doesn't even know what date the wreck happened. And you want to verify it in a conversation and then have everything they've said to you, to the attorney, because like I said earlier, the information they're giving you, the intake rep, and they're giving the walker rep all the way to the intake rep, is the most accurate, often, information in the process because it's the most fresh, right? If the attorney talks to the client a week later, it's not going to be as fresh. So that's something to keep in mind when you're getting information. And I talked about this earlier. There's a lot going on. You're getting a lot of calls. You're very, very busy when you're at intake. It's not slow. I mean, even attorneys are busy. Everyone on this call is busy and probably working on something while they're listening, right? You got your demand up, you're fielding calls, whatever it is. There's a lot going on. So you have to determine priorities. Same with dating, right? If you're dating and you're dating a few people, you're determining who you like a little bit more, who you want to continue talking to. Same goes with intake. You need to determine your liability, your priorities. Can't talk today, and go from there. So first, clear liability. Clear liability cases are great, right? That's not a full silver platter, but often it's part of it. Clear liability, you know who's at fault. Police report cites them. They get a ticket, whatever it is. They ran a red, clear cut. They were drinking and driving. Okay, clear cut. Checking that box. I want to get that case signed up and move forward as long as I'm thinking about those other boxes. Commercial cases, those are super important because those are high value cases. Those high value cases are there in commercial because there's often very high policy limits available. There's often a lot going on, right? This person was working and was involved in, for example, a crash. What happened? Clearly, there's an underlying issue that you have to think about. Was there some training issue? Was there a supervision issue? You want to think about those things because commercial cases are top priority because in a regular crash, if I'm rear-ended by someone outside my house, by my neighbor, which would be unfortunate, obviously, on many levels, it sucks. I'm pissed. Person hit me. Okay. But in a commercial case, if it's an issue of training and supervision and so on and so forth, what if this is a common occurrence? What if these truck drivers are being taught how much distance to keep between their truck and a regular passenger vehicle? And so they have a history of rear-ending passenger vehicles. Whatever it is, what if this company keeps putting these guys on schedule? They don't give them enough time off. They're working long hours. They're tired. They're falling asleep. These are things to keep in mind. That's why commercial cases are huge because this is a systemic issue that could be happening, right? That's what often we're going to argue on the PI side. Brain injuries. Brain injuries are huge. We all know this, right? We're like, oh, of course, if it's a traumatic brain injury, sign it up. Great, move forward. It's high value. But why is that? If I break my arm and I get hurt, I might go to PT. I might need surgery. For example, in 2007, me and my family were in a crash on Christmas. My sister broke her arm and it was gnarly. The top of her arm was just flipped. She has a metal plate in her arm to this day. It was terrible, but she's okay now. You don't always know what the long-term effects are going to be. She does have a nasty scar. Guy turned left on red, but she's okay now. Physical injuries are one thing. They still affect you. You might heal, you might not. You might have limitations in life, but neurological injuries are a whole different story because there are long-term effects on your brain that you may not have any idea about. That's how you talk to people, form relationships, date, work, do everything in your life. You don't always know what that long-term impact is going to be. And a lot of these times, these days, those cases don't get tagged. We miss that concussion. We miss that TBI. We miss that. And so those people don't get the help they need. And the value for the case isn't shown. It's undervalued at the end of the day because we didn't even know there was a brain injury. So you always want to ask those probing questions. I've talked to people. I was actually at a firm yesterday and they were telling me, Shivangi, but I can't, TBI testing is really expensive. Let's get together and look at options. I've worked with the different funding companies, LOPs, a million things, right? Of how to see if we can get the testing. Now, if you have a lower limits case, are you going to spend 10 grand on testing? So 30,000? Probably don't need to. But what you could do is go get the recommendations, right? You can go get the recommendations, whatever imaging, whatever testing needs to be done. And then you can go send a demand with it. There's a lot of things you can do. You can go get the cost of those. You want to probe about those brain injuries because those are top priorities to keep in mind. And finally, referrals. This can be referrals from current clients, older clients, rejected clients, attorneys. So current clients, if a current client sends you a referral, You want to get back to those people. Now, I want to be clear, you should always get back to every potential client timely. You should never ignore anyone and not respond to them. But these are things to keep in mind. Current clients, because imagine I send my best friend over and my best friend's like, Shivangi, you sent me over to this firm, but they suck. They're not responding to my calls. They're not texting me back. That's not a good look. Old clients, you want to always leave on a good note with old clients, right? You always want to speak with them kindly. Intake is that first window into your firm, your reputation, because they might send someone over. Rejected clients. This actually happened to me before. I took this time, I think I spent like 30 minutes on the phone with this very, very kind woman. She was an elderly woman. She was in a crash. We couldn't help her. And she sent someone else over. And the person who called was said, you guys couldn't take my friend's case, but she said y'all were so nice and helpful that maybe you could steer me in the right direction if you can. Your reputation matters. And intake, it is so important. That's the first voice they're hearing to have that conversation. And of course, attorneys, right? If attorneys refer cases over, it's for a number of reasons. And often they trust that you can do the work and you can do the work well. You don't want to have a reputation for, oh, I'll get back to them when I get back to them. It's not a big deal. You want to get back to those people. You want to keep a good relationship so that you keep getting those calls. It's very important because you want to keep getting those calls, right? That's the lifeblood of the organization, is to get those calls, to keep that conversation going. And you want to make sure you're getting back to those people. So you have to always determine your priorities, because calls are coming in, coming in, coming in. Is it clear liability? Is it a commercial case? Is it a potential brain injury? Is there a TBI in there? Is this a referral that I should talk to? Always get back to everyone. But for those areas, you want to be really thorough in getting back to them. Organization within the chaos, right? This is a life slide, not just for dating, but obviously in dating, organization is important too. But systems. Take down notes, because no one likes repeating themselves. Those are the two big bullets. If nothing else, have that written everywhere. Systems. Follow a system and a process to ensure that information that's being gathered is also being saved, which is common sense, right? So let's say you go on a bunch of dates and you don't save anyone's number, and you take person A to a pizzeria and you take person B to a Mexican restaurant. And then you reach out to person A because you didn't save their number, and you're like, hey, I'd love to take you to this great pizzeria. You took me to a pizzeria already. What are you talking about? Imagine telling a potential client, oh, what happened? You were T-boned? Let's talk about that crash. Can you tell me how it happened? I just spent 30 minutes going through exactly what happened, sending you photos, getting you all the information you needed. Weren't you listening? Weren't you taking notes? You have to keep in mind, you need a system and a process to ensure that that information is being gathered but saved. It helps the next person evaluate. As the attorney who would get these cases, I remember I'd always look at the intake. I look at the intake, the forms, all of it, because I want to know what that potential client told person on day one. Now, we all have our own systems. Whatever firm you're at probably has a system as well, but you want to be consistent. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is often people hate systems. People hate systems. They think it's a headache. It's adding more work. But when you take a step back and learn your firm system, you're going to make your life a lot easier. A little side story. I was at a firm, and at the beginning, I thought the system was a pain in the butt. I said, this is repetitive and redundant, and I hate it. And why am I doing this? I'm going to make my own Excel and my own stuff. And then I realized I was doing exactly on my own Excel that my firm had set up for me. I just didn't fully understand the why and the capabilities of the system we were using. And I was just making my life harder. So take a step back and always look at the systems that your firm has in place so you can use them to the highest level. And so you're not creating work for yourself, because often when you create a lot of your own systems and processes, you're creating more work for yourself, which is not fun, because as I mentioned, I know you're all very, very busy. And take down notes, because no one likes repeating themselves, right? What time did the wreck happen? What date? The city? I'm so sorry to hear that happen. Having that ready to go for the next person, I can't say that more, right? No one likes repeating themselves. If a client calls in every week and someone new every week goes, what date did it happen again? Were you rear-ended? Oh, sorry, you were T-boned. They don't feel heard. They feel frustrated and angry, and attorneys already get bad reps. So we don't need any more bad reps that, hurt us at all. We want to show we're compassionate and caring and that we are listening. And so it's really important to keep that in mind through that whole process. And I think, Ginger, you had a few things you wanted to pop in and talk about. This might be a good part for me to pause.
It sure is. Thank you so much. And these are such good tips. I had a question that did come in, and this one was, do you, or actually, have you created an intake questionnaire that you might be able to share with everyone?
Mhm.
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, Mary Lou, I'm going to let you take it. I think you were ready to answer, or maybe you weren't. Oh, my computer just froze on me. So, great question. I've actually looked at a bunch of different intake questionnaires. I haven't created one myself. What I've done is I work with firms with what they have to help expand it. So, the reason that's really important, I think, is I was at a firm where we had the longest intake questionnaire. Like, talk about an intake call that would take hours and hours and hours. And then I've been at firms where it's super short. And because of that, I think it's really important to work within what the firm's process is. So what I'll do is I'll go into firms and they'll give me their intake questionnaire and I can spot check it with my experience, what I know as an attorney of what I'll need, and also cross-reference what other firms are doing and expand upon that, which I think often goes over a lot better than something new.
Okay,
I
that's
also
perfect.
would like to add
Mhm.
on the intake for each law firm, sometimes there are, in a geographical area, it could be a little bit different, but understanding the intake form for your client in that type of call they're calling about. If it's an intake for a regular auto versus auto, okay. If it's an intake for motorcycle accident, that's a little bit different of an intake on a motorcycle. If it's an intake for trucking, that intake sheet is different. And I am more than happy to send to Javanti our different ones that we do have that I have collected from law offices, trucking intake, a catastrophic intake, a pedestrian intake, because these intakes are different and the questions are different.
And it's so true, Mary Lou, actually, that you say that. Because funny story, I was training someone who was a new hire at one of the firms I was at, and they had because we had a different one for a dog bite, for example, but they had the car wreck one up in front of them. So they were going through the questions. Did the other driver have a red light or a stop sign? And the person goes, I was attacked by a dog. So there was no stop there. Like, what are you talking about? It's not a good look, right? So you really want to know, but Mary Lou said I can't emphasize that enough. No, your audience, right? Know the case. It's very, very important.
Well, I'm already seeing several comments that everyone would like a copy of those. So, do you want to send those copies to me and I share it with everyone, or would you like people to reach out to you directly for that?
We could share them with you, Ginger, but they'll have our contact information as well. So we'll send them to you regardless. But obviously, if y'all have any questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, they want them, so we will make sure that you guys get a copy of those. I'm going to take a quick break though, real fast, because, and we're just going to introduce all three of our partners today. I am so excited. These are wonderful people that we work with. We love the support that we get from you guys. I can't say enough good things about OnPoint, Fox AE, as well as HMR. I'm gonna have Taylor go first. Taylor, I believe, are you reporting live from North Carolina today?
I am approaching a 6, 7, 8-inch snowstorm, but happy to be warm. I know Mary Lou and her group over at Walker Advertising are based out of Los Angeles, so our hearts and prayers go out to them with all these the horrific wildfires and the videos we're seeing from there. But Ginger, thanks as always for the introduction. It's great to see some familiar faces on these wonderful webinars. Love to see Patrick and my buddy Cody. But again, my name is Taylor Luce with HMR. We're a national medical funding company for uninsured and underinsured injured plaintiffs. I've been in the medical funding space for about 11 years. HMR has been doing this on a national scale for about 15 years. I've been coming to Connectionology for about 4. I know some of you have heard my same old spiel about the 3 products we can offer, whether it's medical funding, pre-settlement advances, or case costs. I kind of wanted to give you guys a kind of a case study of something I'm working on right now, that a case down in Louisiana that really hit home for me, and is employing all 3 products that we offer you guys. And first of all of our medical funding options are interest free. Yeah, you guys can use your line of credit, but why do that if you could use ours at an interest-free, cost? So got this plaintiff down in Louisiana. We took this case in about almost a year and a half ago. He was a motorcyclist, as you guys were just talking about at intake. From intake to now, it's kind of crazy to see all this. An 18-wheeler turned left in front of him. He did lose his leg. We have funded multiple knee surgeries for his leg that is still left. And we have funded a prosthetic for him for his amputation. So this attorney called me, didn't know where to go, neither did his client. And we got it set up. We have funded all of his medical treatment to date. He's also come to us for all of his pre-settlement advances. He's no longer able to work. He cannot provide for his family, to his appointments. We bought him a car. Gas and groceries, things he can't afford himself any longer. We're able to do that for him so he can focus on his recovery. So it's going to be a long recovery, obviously, and the litigation aspect of his case, which leads me to the last option we can offer. The attorney is also utilizing, our case cost and expert funding program, where we've worked with guys like, OnPoint Legal Nurse Consulting and Cody's group with, recreating this accident and this scene. So where you guys, aren't utilizing your law firm line of credit, and that's where we can jump in and help, change, the trajectory of the case and help prove the damage model, whether we're funding your most basic single study MRI to your most catastrophic, TBI, we are funding it. So if you guys could just, that's one thing I ask as this New Year's resolution. If you guys could just give me one chance to help, prove myself and prove our company's worth to what we can do for your injured clients in their time of need, that would mean the world to me and our companies. If you just gave us a shot, I do think we can knock it out the park for you.
And you guys do such a great job too. Taylor, I can't say enough good things about working with you and everybody at HMR. I know that if I have a question or if somebody needs to reach a certain expert, and it doesn't matter what state it is, you guys will know how to help them. And I can't thank you enough for the different things that you've done for all of your clients throughout the years. I highly encourage you guys to save Taylor's information. He's going to put it in the chat box for you. And if you are a paralegal or somebody in the office, feel free to share that with others in your firm. But thank you so much, Taylor. You stay
Thank you, Ginger,
warm.
and stay warm where you're at, because it looks pretty chilly.
I know. I'd like to say I've got this chalet behind me. I'm dreaming. I'm here in Florida, but it's okay. Thank you
Thank you
for being
guys
here
so
with
much,
us.
and thank you for the comment, Cody. I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, back at
Absolutely.
you, man.
And speaking of Cody, let's have Cody go next. Cody, you guys, is with Fox AE, this great company that does animations, graphics, demonstratives. He's working with Mark Lanier, John Romano, all these great
The
firms across the
best.
country. Exactly. And
Mary Lou, is that you?
it sure is.
Oh, watch out. Watch out. Mary Lou is the best, man. Like, she goes and she gets it, right, Ginger?
Absolutely. And she'll be sharing some of her expertise after Shivangi's presentation as well. So you guys be sure to hang in for that. But Cody, we're glad to have you with us today. And I know that everyone's excited to hear what you guys can offer and all the different, tools like Fox Prime. So I hope you'll be able to cover all of that for us.
Hey, you bet. Speaking of Fox Prime, I'll show you guys a couple examples, but you ever have those like demand letters and things you really want to show them you're serious? People like Satch Oliver, they use graphics from A to Z. Same with John. I mean, graphics from the very conception of the case all the way, even with Void Dyer, they use graphics and in very unconventional ways. And I'm just going to show you a couple of ways that they do this. And some of them are the very same graphics that the heavy hitters use, everybody can use. And so I just wanted to kind of share that with you here. And whoa, here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. But what you can do is you can come in here and you can, type in anything like cervical. All right. I type in cervical, I get a plethora of cervical demonstratives that can be printed up in boards. They can be, some of these are animations, $250 to $750 for like full length, 6-minute animations, super high quality stuff that your doctors can go through. And really, these are more out of the box boilerplate, and they can really let your opposing counsel know, like, you're serious and we're ready to go to trial. When you incorporate those graphics from A to Z, it does make a difference, and it sets a tone from the very, very beginning. So anyway, we've got, brain demonstratives, the functional areas of the brain, to even just normal like tears and bodily injuries and things like that. And so, and very reasonable pricing. So functional areas of the brain here, and you can even go into the oxygen transfer into brain tissue and explain that. And obviously the watermark will be removed, after you purchase it. But just wanted to show that we also do obviously custom graphics, but so.
And it doesn't matter if they are on a tight deadline, right, Cody? They can call you, and you guys have got a great turnaround. John, as well as an Atlanta attorney of ours that works with us, he's told me the story that he has called you and he needed something like ASAP. And I think you were reaching out to him like almost 4 a.m. Now I know you don't want to do that all the time, but
Right.
I just want to say if someone is in a bind where they need something fast, you guys do a great job. And as Dustin Herman said the other day on our webinar, you guys are the best in the country. So
Oh, thank you.
I
It's
agree.
we work with great people, and we just learn from these guys every day. It's just such an amazing thing that you put on, Ginger. So thank you for Connectionology, and thank you for the support.
You're welcome. What makes a big difference too when you love your job and you really enjoy what you're doing because your passion is there, and that is what's helping. I mean, you've got already the great graphics, but when you love what you do, when you're personal like you are, it makes a difference. So keep it up, and we're going to see you very soon, hopefully out in there in Idaho.
Oh yeah, right back at you, Ginger.
All right. Thanks for being with us, and please put your information in the chat box so everybody can stay in touch with you.
You bet.
All right, now, last but not least, okay, before we get back to the presentation, you guys get to meet my dear friend Patrick, who has been in the industry for 20 years now as a nurse. He works with other great people in his firm as well with OnPoint, and John Romano raves about the pain and suffering reports, so you should check into that. But he also talks about how it's so important to have a nurse there when you're needing help telling a story. They can tell it so much differently than an attorney can sometimes. So anyway, it's great to have Patrick with us. He's going to share with you some of the good things they do over at OnPoint Legal Nurse Consulting. But we're just very happy to have you with us.
Hi, Ginger. Nice to see you again, Cody. Everyone, nice to see you, Mary Lou.
Hi.
Presentation. And so my name is Patrick. I've been a nurse for 21 years. My background started in Philadelphia at Thomas Jefferson, and I was an ICU cardiac nurse. And then I went out to the strange world of community health, which is specifically home health, hospice, and long-term care facilities. So what we do over at OnPoint, we're a full litigation support firm, so we can provide behind-the-scenes work. So if you need help getting records, organizing those records, doing chronologies, quick summaries, or just if you have a question that you need a nurse to kind of answer the question, make a little bit more sense of some of the complex medicine. We have a great staff of nurses that can help you for those things. Moving on into the expert world, we have a group of wonderful nursing experts. We have a group of medical experts, and then some specialty experts like engineers and things like that, of forensic accounting that we can place on some cases. We're really here to be an extension of your staff. Like Ginger said, it helps out when we love our jobs. I love my job. I love working with Ginger. I learn something new every day. It's made me a better expert. I've done much better on my depositions with listening to other attorneys and their tips. I have a trial coming up next week. I'll be in Florida. Hopefully it'll be warmer, but those are the things that we like to do over at OnPoint. The pain and suffering report, which John always talks about, is a non-economic damage report, and it's really a different way of explaining what has happened to your clients. So with injuries, we talk to the client if they're available and the families of how it's really changed their life on a day-to-day basis. So it provides extra support. One of the Connectionology attorneys hired us a couple weeks ago, and it's a tractor trailer accident, adding the pain and suffering on top of a life care plan to really bulk up the case, to show kind of a different perspective that nurses can kind of get that assessment. So we're here to help. We love answering questions. If it's the smallest question, send me an email, text me, I can get back to you. It's better to ask a quick question than to go down some medicine on Google rabbit hole for hours or days. So we're here to help. And I'll put my information in the chat box.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to point out too that in the email that I sent to everybody after this webinar, you're going to have a copy of the contact information for Patrick, Cody, Taylor, and you'll have their brochure as well, including Walker Advertising. So you'll be able to stay in touch with everybody. But they're doing great things to help everyone. So thanks so much for supporting them. And Patrick, I'll see you very soon too. Okay.
I'll see you soon.
And I hope it'll be warmer when you come to Florida as well.
Better bit.
All right, Shivangi, back to you. And again, we've got some good questions coming in, so I will be asking those in just a little bit.
Awesome. Can you see my screen, Ginger? Or did I share it correctly? You'd think after COVID I'd be a pro at it, but I always feel like sometimes you just mess it up. But I will say, great sponsors, everyone's great. And just to echo what Patrick said, because I have done that. I've been in the Google rabbit hole where I'm searching and searching and searching, but like many attorneys didn't go to med school, don't have a medical background. So that kind of stuff is super important and helpful.
Before we continue, Attorney Shivangi, I just wanted to add one thing. Walker Advertising has a complete intake brochure and a questionnaire for TBI. So if you need our TBI folder with all the questions that you must have to identify a traumatic brain injury, we have it at any show that you see us. We have that brochure and more. I get a lot of my information from Erica Chavez, attorney Erica Chavez. We have some questionnaires that she has asked. We are more than happy to share that and to share the complete booklet that Walker has designed to help attorneys identify a traumatic brain injury case.
Oh, that's fantastic, Mary Lou. And for any attorneys who might not be able to make it out to one of the shows or the seminars, is this something you might be able to mail to them as well?
Absolutely, hard copy, or it can be emailed to them.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I'll make sure that I find out who would be interested in one of those. Also in my thank you email, we'll make sure you guys get a copy, but that's very helpful. Thank you.
I've seen it. It's awesome. And it's one of those things you want to keep on your desk all the time just to have and check off. And it's awesome. So there's definitely some of those resources, and Ginger will send those over to you. And obviously for anyone else who's interested, and y'all can contact us if there's something you think about after the webinar that you're like, I wish I asked if they had this. Feel free, always reach out to us, and we're happy to help in any way we can. But back to organization, right? Such an exciting slide to get back to. It's so important. I'll do it again. No, I kid. Instead, we'll talk about the next big issue with dating. Who pays for dinner on the first date, right? We have a split group sometimes. The guys do, the girls do. It's mixed. It's someone else. We split it. There's a whole host of opinions on this issue. But the same issue or a similar issue comes up at the intake level because everyone wants to know, I didn't get into this crash on purpose. That person hit me. Who's going to pay for my property damage? Who's going to pay for my medical bills? Who's going to pay for my legal expenses? Who's going to pay for your services? What's going on? Money, 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 right? We worry about our vehicle. We worry about our health, but it's not, people, they think, and they're correct in that, right? Nothing is free. So we always ask ourselves, how should a team address a concern from a potential client about medical bills or seeking treatment for their injuries? Number one, you want to be clear that our focus is for them to get better. We want to handle the legal side while you focus on healing yourself and getting better so that I can get you back to as close as you were pre-crash, right? Ideally, the same level that you were, but sometimes that's not the reality. So as close to that as possible. Our absolute focus is for you to get better. Let me handle the legal side. But with that, I give you the caveat, always defer to the attorney regarding if/how we can make that happen, which goes into options versus guarantees. I had a intake rep tell a potential client, it was a great case. TBI, hit his head. We're going to get him into treatment. And he said to the client, because the client was on the fence to seal the deal, we have this awesome neuro, like this great doctor. We sent a ton of clients there, like really, really great. We can get you in next week. The problem with that statement, there are a lot of problems with it. But number one, that doctor was out of town, I think he was on like vacation and wasn't accepting new cases at this time. The reason that's important is the client remembers everything you say at the intake level. So when you promise a doctor, you promise anything specifically and you guarantee it, and then the firm or the attorney doesn't deliver, the client, that's going to breed even more distrust. Well, they told me I was going to get $100,000 and I was going to see this neuro and the case would be settled yesterday. They're going to remember those things, right? So you want to keep that in mind. We want to provide options versus guarantees, because the attorney at the end of the day is going to need to look at the value of the case. What if that neuro wasn't the best fit for this case for a number of reasons? What if another doctor was? What if they weren't available? They retired? A million things, right? You could explain only so much away to a potential client, but you want to keep that relationship as strong as possible and let them know that focus is really truly for them to get better. We have options available in a lot of different areas for treatment. Well, I don't know if I can travel. Okay, sometimes we're able to, sometimes we're able to arrange transportation. I could talk to the attorney about that. Well, I can only do remote visits. Okay, let me see if that's an option. I know we've done that in some prior cases. You want to tell them about options, but not guarantee and promise anything. For example, and everyone probably knows this, you never want to promise an amount, right? $1 million. The intake person I spoke with, Shivangi, when I called in, she told me I was going to get $1 million for my case and I was going to have it in 2 months. So many things wrong with that statement, right? I may have never even said it, but you want to be very, very careful with amounts and guarantees for types of treatment and for what happens next. Because what if you talk to the client, you get them to sign, you feel really good about yourself. You're like, no, we can help you no matter what. It's going to be great. There's insurance, they'll pay out. Because the crash report, they have the crash report, it says there's insurance, all state. Great. They do their thing, they sign. Then the attorney goes and they see the insurance had lapsed, or they get the crash report, an amended version of the crash report goes out, and wait, there's a dispute and it was really your client's fault. I mean, there's a million things, right? You want to keep in mind what you can do versus what will definitely happen in regards to timeframes, in regards to treatment, in regards to amounts. I'm going to be super clear about that with the client, because once again, attorneys are often distrusted. People don't want to call us. We're not an exciting, hey, what's going on, Shivangi? I was in a crash. Let's chat. It's not a happy call. It's not exciting. It's not fun. So we want to be positive. We got to remember our reputation. We want to be honest, because that's going to keep new clients coming to us as well. And other costs, legal costs. Why is that so important? How am I going to pay you? I was just in a crash. I can't even pay for medical treatment. How am I going to pay for an attorney? You want to be real clear. Most PI attorneys are contingency fee based. You want to explain what that means. I had in our contract, one of the contracts, I think actually both the firms I've worked at, there was a breakdown of the contingency fee, right? There was a pre-lit, a lit, and then we had if it's appealed. We have different percentages, but the lit percentage wasn't explained properly. It was 40%. But it wasn't explained that doesn't just mean trial, right? That means once I file suit and we're exchanging discovery, we have depositions, we have hearings, we have all this other stuff, and then a case settles. And the client said, no, this wasn't lit. You need to charge me the pre-lit rate because you guys didn't really do that much in lit. You didn't even have to go to trial, which I know gives everyone heartburn, because even if you don't have to go to trial, often when you're lit, there's a lot of work, right? Depositions and discovery, there's a whole host of things. You want to explain that contingency fee, and you are somewhat justifying it, right? The amount of work. Now, sometimes in some cases on the back end, we might reduce it. We might do a lot of things as attorneys, but we want to be very careful and from the beginning to be very honest, because then when we say that at the end and we're replicating that information, we're saying the same thing, that trust is growing. Oh, this is an honest attorney. They never changed what they said. Now, we all have those clients, the potential clients, who sign up that we could do all the right things. We explain the contingency fee correctly. We explain it's when you file a lawsuit. We say the same thing at the end, but as we all know, you have the person who's like, no, that didn't happen. They've forgotten everything. That's the reality. That does happen sometimes. But we're trying to look at the general gist of what's going to happen, the general group, right? And we want to do everything we can to remain consistent and to remain honest. And explaining to them, right? We're not getting paid unless we settle or resolve your case. If versus when. It's really important. You want to be very careful. We're only going to get paid out if and when it's done. But if you tell them when we get a verdict or when we get a settlement. You don't want to guarantee anything. Going back to that other slide, you don't always go to trial. The reality is trial doesn't happen every single day in every single case. A lot of cases settled before trial, right? Often there's a settlement on the table that gets taken. There's a million things. There's risk on the firm in taking the case, and you want to explain that while also explaining how we're getting paid and justifying that, because that honesty and consistency takes you all the way through the end, and it builds that trust with that client. This one is a big one. I hope it's not happened to anyone on here, but the odds are someone's probably been ghosted on here or has done the ghosting. But dating nowadays, you get ghosted. You match with someone on an app, you're hitting it off, you're chatting, and then they just stop responding, which frankly, I think is very rude and disrespectful. And you could just tell someone you're not interested, but don't get me, let me step off my soapbox real quick. But it happens with potential clients, right? Unsigned retainers. Sign when you have them on the phone, right? We all know this. It's ideal. If you are still setting paper contracts, please call me. Let's have a conversation. We'll talk about 15 other things you can do. Sometimes you'll have to still send a paper contract or go physically, or they'll come in, fine. But you have to have options available. Email, text message. What do you got to do? You do it. You can get that sign up. You got to drive to a remote area. You got to send someone, a remote notary, whatever it is, you get it done, you get it signed. Sign while they are on the phone where all decision makers are there. I've gotten the call. I'm an 18-year-old college student. I was just hit. I don't really know. Hiring an attorney sounds scary. It's like a really big deal. I need to talk to my dad because I don't really know what I'm doing. Or I need to call my mom or my parents. I don't really know what I'm doing. Let's conference them in. No problem. Let's add them to the call. They're at work right now. Okay, cool. When's their lunch break? When do they get off? Why don't we set up a meeting, all three of us? Why don't we chat? I can come by. Sometimes proximity is an issue, right? Often we're practicing in more than just one city. You know, I'm in Houston or I'm in Austin, and this potential client is in Houston or just a few hours away. Can't necessarily make it work within the hour. Figure it out. There is a way to get all decision makers on the phone. I've offered that. Let's conference in your dad. Why don't we do that? Have conference in the dad. I went through the contract line by line with this girl and then this college student. And then she's like, I just don't know. Let me add my dad. And then I did the same thing. And then he said, let me add my wife. So I was a very long call. I went through that contract. I could recite it in my sleep, but I did it. They felt comfortable. They ended up signing. You want to hear them out. You want to make them feel comfortable. Really important. Get all decision makers online. Have them sign on the phone. You can email it. You can text it. You can do whatever you need to do. I've had a client be like, I can't technology. Like technology, it ain't me. I am in a wheelchair. I live by myself, and she lived a few hours in a very remote area. I have all these medical records and bills, and I want to send them to you. I have my health insurance card. I have everything I need, my license, but I don't know how to take a photo and send it to you. Okay, no, cool, no problem. I'll be there tomorrow. Got my car, drove over, took photos of everything, got back. Was it inconvenient for a Thursday morning or whatever it was, Wednesday morning? I'm not sure, but I did it. And it made her feel so much better about signing with us because I had everything I needed. So it made me feel better. She felt like you're a real human being, and it's what she needed because once again, attorneys get a bad rep. I can't say it enough. I think we all know it. So I'm often trying to change it because I got into this profession because I wanted to be an advocate for people. When we were in a car crash in 2007, we needed an advocate. And, you know, my parents came to this country from India. They speak English, but they didn't really understand the legal system. So my dad hired an attorney and he helped us through that whole process. So I want to be an advocate for people who need help during a super difficult time. So you want to keep that in mind, that we're trying to make that person feel comfortable and get that sign up in whichever method we need to. And we want to remain respectful yet assertive. You should never, ever, ever get off the phone and not know what happens next. Oh, I don't know. I'll try him again tonight. We'll see. That should never happen. That is, if that's happening, stop right there. Let's have a conversation. Reach out to me because you should know what happens next. Whether that's a follow-up call, whether that is a follow-up Zoom, a follow-up meeting. I had a partner at one of the firms I was at made this suggestion. I thought it was great. And we were able to do this at our firm. You should check with your firm to see if it's an option. He said, when I have someone who's on the line, I don't know, attorneys, I don't want to go through the process. Seems like a lot of work, all of it. The partner said what I would do is on the last page where they would sign, they give them an out. They say in 7 days, 14 days, whatever. If you're not happy and you don't want to proceed, tell me you want out. No problem. 14 days, 7 days, whatever. You can tell me I don't want to proceed anymore. We're good. We did that on a few cases, not a ton, but a few. And often they'd see what we're doing in that first 7 to 14 days because, that's a whole other webinar and a whole presentation. The first 30 days of a case are so important. And they saw what we were doing. And they saw our communication. They saw the work we were putting into it. and they never left. They were just anxious, but that made them feel better and gave them that security that, okay, it's in writing. I can just step out when I want. And you have to check with your firm if that's something they're comfortable with, but it's an option to keep in mind. And it lets you remain assertive in getting it done. But you always know what's happening next. What do I need to get it done? Or what do I need to get on the phone with this person next? I have it calendared, getting alternate contacts. We would do that when we'd sign up a case, but sometimes for the college student, if she was like, my dad's at work, my mom's at work, and I can't conference them in, no problem. Give me their numbers and let's set a follow-up call for 5:30 today. Then I have other numbers to reach her or other emails, and I have a time. You want to keep that in mind. Ideally, you sign them up right then and there. If you can't, you have a plan B in place. You never get off the phone saying what's next. Bring someone in internally. This was huge when I first started practice. I remember we'd have 4-hour blocks. We would be on call for intake calls, right? So if intake reps needed to escalate a case, it's commercial, wrongful death, whatever it was. And I remember we'd have teams. And I got a call, and I was my first call, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I think it's a good case. Like, do I sign it up? Do I not? I'm like new. I'm a baby lawyer. I don't know what I'm doing. And I just had a message to a more senior attorney, and he didn't come in the call, but I was messaging with him while I was on the call, and it helped me close the deal. Now, you might have Teams, you might have Slack, you might have text message. Never feel afraid to bring someone in internally. Maybe that's a supervisor, maybe that's the director of intake, maybe that's another intake rep, maybe it's an attorney. Hear what the needs are. When I first started, especially, maybe I still do, sometimes sound kind of young, a little nervous when I first started, especially. And they wanted to hear, it was more of an old school guy. He wanted an old school guy on the phone. So I knew exactly what senior attorney to bring in. And he got on the phone,
5 o'clock.
said what I had to say, worked with me, didn't put me in a position to make me feel less than, but we kind of worked together, if that makes sense. And he just repeated what I said and was like, yeah, and Shivangi's great, and she's done all these great things. We got the deal done. Know when you need to bring someone in to close the deal. And never feel embarrassed to do that. Super helpful. It's all a team, right? The goal of the firm is to help people. We want to help people. We want to make money. We want to be successful. We want clients to keep calling us. So never hesitate to do that and ask for help. And always, always, always goes back to my earlier point. Confirm a mutually agreeable time to follow up within 24 hours, not tomorrow, not 2 days from now. I say 24 hours, but 12 hours is better. Morning, night, whenever you need. Smoke breaks, lunch breaks, whatever that person needs, you call. I had a mom, not at the intake level, but at the settlement phase. We had our disbursement. We used to go through it line by line. She's like, I am working and I'm only available at 9:30 at night. Like, I get home from work. I cannot do any other time. Cool, no problem. Was at the office, drove home, got on my cell phone, called her, went through everything. She was so appreciative. When you make that extra effort, especially at intake, it's a game changer. Wow, they're really willing to work with me, and they're willing to take a second and see what I need. That is huge. And that is so important because people want to know that you're there for them. Once again, I've said it, I think, on every slide. People don't trust us, guys. We gotta fix that. And we want to show them that we're there for them and we will work with them. You want to ask, how can we help, right? Our priority is to help potential clients if we can. And we never want to leave them hanging. Biggest form of disrespect, right? It's just wrong. We don't like when we're left hanging, right? When we're ghosted. So we want to help people in any way we can. Ideally, we take the case. Sometimes we can't. Can we refer it to someone else? Can we make an online recommendation? Can we talk to them about small claims and other options they have? Great. Can we tell them to go ahead and file a claim and you can negotiate, do your own thing while making it clear we don't represent them? Great. Talk to them. They're people and they've gone through something terrible and they just need some help. So be there for them. Listen to them. Be compassionate. Be empathetic. And be sure that at the intake phase, we're confirming the information that's needed to make the determination that we need, right? We're confirming what information we need to know. We can take the case, we can't. Regardless, we're getting them an answer. We can take your case. Here's what happens next. We can take your case, but here are some other options. Now, we can't take your case. Your SOL, bye, hang up, right? We want to be respectful and kind and help people because once again, these people have been through something absolutely terrible and they just want our help. So when you're dating, because I told you this was a twofer, I think all of these apply to dating as well as intake, right? Always remember, listen and empathize while narrowing the conversation. People can talk for hours. Remember an intake, we're going to listen, but we're going to remember our 3 buckets. Liability, source of recovery, medical treatment. Let me remember these 3 buckets. Write them in bold marker at the top. When you're on a date, listen, don't think about what you're going to say while they're talking, and narrow the conversation, right? What your interests are, what theirs are. We're narrowing, we're thinking about that. And liability, source of recovery, and treatment. taking notes and passing them along. At the intake level, it's fresh. It's very, very fresh. So we want to make sure that we're passing that information along to whoever comes next. When we get a walker lead, we send you a really nice brief email. Boom, boom, boom. You have all the info. I'm so sorry you were involved in a crash last Wednesday in Houston. Looks like you were T-boned. Oh, how are you feeling? How's your back? I see that you got hurt. That's different than going question by question by question. Save the numbers if you're dating someone, right? So you're not forgetting everything you've said. You might not take notes on dates. I mean, some of you might. I don't really know how that goes over, but you don't want to take notes, but you want to remember and be courteous. No promises. You're not promising $1 million. You're not promising it yesterday. You want to talk about options. You want to provide comfort, and you want to get them to the right party to help them, whether that's the attorney and getting that call set up after you've signed up the case. But you're not promising them, I'm going to get you into that doctor tomorrow at 4 p.m. because you don't know unless you've somehow talked to the doctor and everything you needed to do. Yeah, I'm going to work to get you into treatment within the week. I'm going to see what options we have. Next week, let me talk to the attorney and let me see what we can do. Whatever your process is, it's different from a guarantee versus an option. And don't leave the potential client hanging. I cannot stress this enough. This, everyone probably knows this, number one complaint for attorneys, bar complaint, communication. No one's talking to me. From the beginning, they never got back to me, or I signed up and then they never talked to me. A tip, have some kind of reference time point. Just like when you're dating, right? You might talk to someone every day, every few days. I've been at firms, we've seen two different ways, both very successful. A 30-day timer. Every 30 days, you're having a conversation. You're going through your script, checking in. Or every 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, often it's an email. What's happened on your case, what we need from you, and a check-in. Sometimes that works. You need to see what works best for you. I think a combination of the two are really great. Communication, communication, communication. But all of that starts from intake, because if you don't communicate with them from the beginning, you've got an issue. So I hope that y'all have enjoyed my presentation and you've taken some information away on the intake side, but also from the dating side. And it's been a pleasure talking with all of you, and I'm going to hand it back to Ginger.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've had some really great questions come in for both you and also for Mary. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a couple of the questions that have come in first, and then I'll head over to Mary Lou. And by the way, this is a wonderful presentation. I just wanted to remind everyone that I do have your email address, everybody. So I will make sure that I email all of you a copy of the intake forms, the slides, as well as the contact information for Shivangi, Mary Lou, and all of our incredible partners. But let me find these questions real quick that I had that came in. The first one is, how long should somebody be on the phone for an intake call?
Well, it's a loaded question because every call is different, right? And obviously you have limited time. You have calls coming in, you're busy, you got things to do, you got calls to get back to. So you want to be confident, once again, going back to those 3 buckets, that within the first few minutes, I would say within the first 5, you have an idea for those 3 buckets: liability, source recovery, medical treatment. It's not going to always be on a silver platter, but within those first 5 minutes, you've now poked and prodded. The next 5, get any other information you need, then you can talk about the sign up. I would say you can often complete a really successful intake, but sometimes, right, between 10 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes you need an hour, right? It just depends. But just keep in mind, you want to probe into those buckets, and you're going to know whether you're taking the case. What you don't want to happen is you're on the phone with the potential client for 30 minutes, and then they say, and then I never actually got treatment, I'm never going to treat, and I'm actually not hurt, and I just want help with my property damage. If you're finding that out at the 30-minute mark versus the 5-minute mark, you have a problem. So you want to have poked and prodded within that first 5, and then every call is just a little bit different, but you'll have the meat and potatoes of what you need from the beginning.
I also want to add to that, when the person, your client, comes on, they want to feel very, very safe and have good confidence in your intake ability. Controlling your client is a very important point. You cannot allow the client to go on and on and on. And I will give you an example. When you tell your client, thank you so much, that's an excellent point, this will go back to the attorney. What's important for them is that you're acknowledging their input to the intake. They start listening more to you and stop asking so many questions. And then you have a period of time. Have I answered all your questions on this portion of your intake. Controlling your client is everything.
Perfect. Thank you.
100%. Otherwise, you're going to be on the phone for a very long time. And
Yes.
it's not going to be fun for you or them. So I completely agree.
Okay, perfect. Now the next question for you guys. For example, this question came in. If I can't get the potential client signed up while I have them, what should I do?
Very important underneath all of that is the why. There's a reason, right? I need someone else on the phone. Let's figure out how to get them on the phone. Let's figure out how to meet in person, right? You always want to have a plan and figure out what comes next. Sometimes you need to bring in someone internally. Sometimes they'll just say something and you're not buying it and they're just like trying to push it off because they're shopping around. Once you figure out the why, you can figure out the next step. That's really, really key. And if you're just completely unsure, bring someone in internally immediately, right? Find out the best person. If you're like, I'm new at this and I'm not quite sure, you want to just keep that in mind, because once you know the why, then you can figure out what you need to do. Decision maker. Okay, let's go with the decision maker. I'm busy right now. When's lunch? When's, I feel more comfortable in person. Cool, let's meet in person. Let's figure it out. Figuring out the why will allow you to figure out what comes next and make a plan.
Okay,
And in
perfect.
that beginning, you want that client to feel very adaptable to you and how you're asking. You need to get that like from that client. So if they have all these kind of little questions, I'm not sure, you really haven't done your job, because they need to know they're speaking to the very best law firm.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add, this actually helped me early on in my career a lot, because I remember when I first started, I was nervous. I was like, how do I talk to a client? What am I going to do? And I'm going to give them the wrong answer. And one of the partners had told me, he had said, no one's like on the phone. They can't see you. They don't know what year you graduated. They don't know how old you are. You can exude that confidence, just like Mary Lou said, to guide them without them knowing that you're, a baby lawyer. You've been in practice for 5 minutes. And you have to really exude that confidence and know what you're doing, because all of you here know what you're doing. And you want to let them know so you can guide them.
Okay, great. And then I got a great question that just came up from Nora. What do you suggest for follow-up cadence when you're unable to reach the client and they have already left a voicemail?
Getting ghosted. They're trying to ghost you, or they don't want to talk to you. So a couple things with this. If it's a potential client, ideally you have another way to reach them, right? You have an alternate contact. Maybe at that point you had set up a time to talk, right? You talked to them this morning and you're like, we're going to talk at 3:15 today. You call them at 3:15, you leave a voicemail, they don't answer. Ideally, you might have another number to reach them or an email. You try those. You shoot a text message. I would regularly follow up. And the way that I've actually done it on a voicemail when I have to leave another one, because no one likes getting 50 emails a day and 50 voicemails a day, right? That's just going to annoy someone. Is I'm very transparent. Hey, Shivangi, just wanted to check in. I know we talked Monday. You were looking to speak to someone about the crash you were involved in. No worries if you're not looking to move forward. I just want to make sure I know that so I stop bothering you. Can we just hop on a call to make sure, so I can make sure I've done everything that I needed to do? That has helped me time and time again, because then they'll get back on the phone and I'll talk to them and I can complete the sign up if I want the case. Because you just want to be clear, like, I'm not trying to bug you, but let's just, I have to follow a process. My firm has a process where I have to keep reaching out until you tell me that until you get on the phone with me and tell me you're not interested. So let's continue that conversation. And then if not, cool, no problem. And that makes that follow-up easier, but it lets them know, okay, I'm not going to just get on the phone and they're going to be annoying, or they're going to leave me 50 voicemails every day. And that's
I also would like to add, once that initial is done and they kind of ghost you, always have a letter that you can send to your client. It was great speaking to you. A friendly letter of joining the family here. We're here to help you. You send a business card. They get that the next day. They're not going to get it in a week. Communicate to the client in every way possible.
Absolutely. And this next question is, how do I know when to escalate a call and bring somebody in?
Never, ever feel nervous to ask for help. I think that's the lesson for everyone from day one to more experienced attorneys. You can call, you can text, you have Teams, you have Slack. You can, when I was in office, I'd just like walk down the hall. I'd take my cell phone with me because I would take them on what we were using, our service that we would use, and I'd have the potential client and I'd be listening, and I'd walk over to someone else's office for help. Never feel nervous to ask for help. There's never a wrong time. I would say ask for help, especially as you need it in the beginning, and then you'll get more comfortable with it and you'll be able to handle more of those calls on your own.
Excellent.
Okay, perfect. And then I have another question. This is a good one too, that just came in from Debbie. If your AAL hasn't decided to actually take the case, and you're unable to reach, try to get this, let's see. If your AAL hasn't decided to actually take the case yet, when do you ask the lead to go and obtain and send in, if they have them, medical records? A lot of them work for them and their firm doesn't actually take the case.
Okay. So the first thing I will say is the very first part of your question. If your law firm hasn't decided to take the case, what's the time frame for deciding to take the case, right? So if the potential client calls in on a Thursday, are we thinking about it for a week or two? I will say MedMal's different, obviously. So with MedMal, you're going to get records, you're going to go through them. It's a little bit different. A car wreck is obviously a little bit different. For the firms I was at, we didn't make that determination based on medical records they had. And so that's a process with the firm I would definitely want to clarify, because you don't ever want to leave a potential client hanging. Or what I would argue is really, really bad is them thinking that you represent them for the week that you're thinking about it, and then you don't take the case, and then you might have an issue. So I would be very cautious about that and getting medical records from a client if you don't represent them, because you don't want them to think that you represent them, and then you reject the case and they're like, no, I have an attorney. You represent, like, what are you talking about? You have my case. Like, wait, hold on. So you want to keep that in mind. And number two, I would actually go back to the basics of that, right? How long are we contemplating? We had a rule at my firm. We decided within no more than, I think it was like 3 days at the last firm I was at. It was not sitting on it. If it had to be escalated, we'd get an answer, because you don't want to be sitting on an intake that's just open, but also for that potential client, because then they could get help from another attorney maybe, or go do something else. So I would go back to the basics of what's the process and how long are y'all actually contemplating those cases. But two, I'd be very careful before you're getting records and forming that relationship if you don't represent the client.
Great, thank you. And now this next question is actually for you, Mary Lou. What is the single most important thing that you should ask at the end of an intake?
The very most, have I answered all of your questions that you need? Don't be afraid to ask me something that I have not covered. I'm here to help you, lead and direct you, to get your car fixed for you, to get you to the best medical. You're going to review some key points, and they will say, well, I have a question. How long will this take? Never be afraid to tell a client, have I answered everything you need to know? It's so important. Sometimes they listen to everything, they're happy, they weren't sure about something. Open it up. Have I missed anything for you? It is critical, because then they're looking at you. She cares about everything she said. Did I miss something? So open it up. There could be a few things. There could be a few things that you missed that you didn't pick up. That brings you back to them. And I find that bringing them back in gives you a better reinsurance on a conversion rate.
And if I can just build off that, completely agree. And what I found is really helpful is what we used to do at one of the places I was at is we'd sign up the case. Let's say it was a Monday. Within 2 days, you had a meeting with the attorney, ideally in person or Zoom or whatever. But the intake rep would usually text with the potential client too.
Mhm.
And the next day would just check in. Hey, just want to make sure, because sometimes they would tell the client on day one, right? They've signed up and, have I answered all your questions? I can't think of any more. No worries. If you need anything, let me know. Then the intake rep would just shoot them a text the next day. And they were so grateful. Oh, I actually do have another question. I was just really busy, forgot to reach out. Because contact, because once again, number one bar complaint, I don't hear from my law firm. I don't hear from my attorney communication. So that really pushes that follow-up.
Mhm. And I've got another question for Mary Lou, but I've got a great one that just came in that I think we all have been there and done that. Okay. This one is, do you ladies have any tips to politely end a call with a continuous talker that you know your office is not going to be able to help? And oftentimes, you have to politely interrupt them and say that I believe I have all the information that I need for the attorney, who will be able to make their determination. What would you say to that?
We've been on those calls. I know it's like it's 45 minutes in and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do and I can't take these. Number one, politely interrupt, right? You're not going to be rude about it. I don't think anyone on here would intentionally be rude to someone. Once again, acknowledge, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I just want to let you know where we're at. I just want to give you an update of, based on the information you've given me, I want to let you know where we're at. And I'm so sorry you've gone through this. And then remember the why, because there's obviously a reason, right? You can't take the case. Maybe it's not your practice area. Maybe it doesn't meet your threshold. It's out of guidelines. It's a hard one is they've been in like 15 wrecks. They've hurt their back 15 times, and maybe there's a serious pre-existing issue. And for some reason, your firm's not going to take the case, whatever it is. You want to graciously let them know, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I just want to give you an update on where we're at and some suggestions that I can make. Unfortunately, at this time, it's not a case that our firm can proceed with, but I do have some recommendations. You can file some things sometimes in small claims court. I've walked a potential client through that. I've referred an attorney. I've recommended Avo. I've, recommended sometimes on Google, you can search for this type of attorney for this practice area, whatever it is. And that often cleans it up. And then I let them know, it's been a pleasure before they can say too much else. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you. If you need anything else or you have any other questions, you can always, give me a call back and I'm happy to chat. But unfortunately, it's not going to be something we can help with. And that usually cuts it off. And usually once I start from that polite introduction, I'm able to wrap it up.
Absolutely. That is perfect. And I know that Mary Lou is coming back in just a moment. I wanted to get her video back on there for her. But I have another good question for her. So in the meantime, I'm going to bring in Ted real fast with HMR, who's going to tell us who the special coffee giveaway winner is. And in the meantime, since I have everybody with us, our paralegals, our office staff that are watching right now, I want to make sure you guys know about Mass Torts Made Perfect. This is another amazing organization. You guys know we work with national trial lawyers, we work with AHA, we work with all these great groups across the country. And I always feel it's better to share what everybody's doing because we can all benefit from that. So if you're familiar with Mass Torts Made Perfect, or if you're not, be sure to go to their website and check it out because they have an incredible paralegal program. I believe their next conference coming up is April 1st through the 3rd in Las Vegas, where you can actually go and meet with other paralegals just like yourself around the country. They get together, they've got great topics, great speakers, and you get to connect with people. And I think that's what it's all about. You want to make sure you can get help from people because sometimes they're doing things differently in other firms, and you get to learn their techniques, and it helps your job and it helps your clients. So check out this amazing organization. And then also they do webinars too, just like us. Be sure to go onto their website. You can log in and sign up for their paralegal webinars. Again, Mass Torts Made Perfect, awesome organization. I just wanted to point that out to you guys. And I see that Ted is joining us now. So you guys know what time it is. It is time to announce the winner of the HMR coffee giveaway. And this is a brand new coffee that they are doing, the Costa Rican style now, right, Ted?
That is correct. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to see you. I hope you're warm up there in Richmond, Virginia today.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It is awful cold here. And like Taylor said, we've got some good snow coming through here again tomorrow night as well. So at least it'll be Friday night and we'll get some good sledding in, hopefully, with the kids.
Oh, you guys are lucky. This is going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're going to announce the winner. And then I also, after you're done, I want you to tell me about the HMR After Dark.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so I'm excited to announce it's Jessica Edwards, and she happens to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. So this coffee is probably gonna be coming to her at a great time too, with all the snow that they're getting down in North Carolina as well. So congratulations, Jessica. It's gonna be wonderful coffee.
You said it's Jessica Edwards, right?
Jessica Edwards, yep, out of Charlotte,
Fantastic.
North Carolina.
Sounds like she might be a first-time winner, so we're glad that she's watching. And for everyone else who's sad that they didn't win, don't worry, guys, because we have a lot more webinars coming up here at Connectionology. I'm working on adding those to our website, and you'll get a chance to win on our next one. But thank you, Ted. We always look forward to that, and you are so kind to be able to offer that giveaway for us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love spreading the caffeine joy.
Now, tell us about HMR After Dark.
Yeah, so we are back at the National Trial Lawyers Summit coming up. What is it, January 26th through I think 29th, something in that range. And our party is on the opening evening, so that is the 27th. So right after the opening party, come on over to Hyde Beach, which is like 2 hotels over, super close, for our annual HMR After Dark party. We're going to have cigar roller. That was super awesome last year. Everybody just loved the cigars that he was rolling. Obviously, drinks, appetizers, DJ music, and just lots of folks to just catch up with. You know, first big conference of the year, so it's just going to be a lot of fun. So we just look forward to having everybody there. This is probably the 6th year that we've done it, with obviously a year off for COVID. But we just love Hyde Beach. I mean, it is just a fantastic venue for this. And we just look forward to you, Ginger, and John, and everybody coming to join us again. And it would just be a great time.
You better believe it. We're excited to come down to Miami and look forward to seeing everybody there at National Trial Lawyers. And if you see me, if you see Ted, any of us here, please go up and say hello, because we would love to meet you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for all that you do, Ted. We'll see you back here again on the next webinar, okay?
Sounds great. Have a wonderful weekend as well.
You too. Enjoy that snow and enjoy the kids.
We will. Thank you.
All right, now, Shivangi, I wanted to get back to you real quick, because I wanted you just to mention briefly a little bit of information about Walker Advertising and let people know a little bit about what you guys do and what you specialize in. I know that I'll be sharing a brochure with everyone after this webinar as well, but we'd love to hear from you what you think.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, right, we're a lead generation company, which I think is really, really important to keep in mind, because we specialize in really providing and generating high quality leads that are pre-qualified for law firms. And we have qualifiers we provide to the firms. This is great as a marketing strategy, right? That really helps law firms outside of, you can spend a lot of money on your own marketing team. But this is great because it's going to help you get to leads that you might not otherwise get, right? If you're not in their realm of, they don't get your ads, or if you have a billboard, if you have commercials. So this is another way to really get those leads, but really important. It's helpful for growth. And the reason I say this is because it helps you get the volume of cases coming in regularly through leads that you get through us. And I think what's really important, even underneath all of that, is the community advocacy portion, right? So it really started to help underserved communities. That's how the company really started. And now we're able to connect with people who are calling and need help. And because of our bilingual contact center, we're able to help those people and connect them with law firms. And what's really exciting, and what I'm really excited about for my role, is that professional development side for the firms, to help and provide that training and that education. And it helps me learn, right? As an attorney, I've been at firms and I've practiced, and I thought Walker was so cool because now it's like I'm at a lot of firms and I get to see how a lot of different firms operate, what works, what doesn't work, and take those tips and tricks, because it helps everyone succeed at the end of the day.
And I wanted to say too, if you guys have more questions to Shivangi about Walker Advertising, even Mary Lou, I think we lost her, but we will definitely get her back on here very soon. She's just, again, both a wealth of information and such good tips today. This was an important topic for us to cover. I do want to remind anyone watching, don't be shy, but if you would like to speak on a Connectionology webinar too and teach one of these paralegal laboratories, please reach out to me, ginger@connectionology.com, so that way we can get some more of these webinars going, because I think they're so important and it's great to have everybody joining us.
A lot of fun, I will say. It's a lot of, it's my first one that I've done, and I loved it. I think it's great. And you get nervous at first because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to present. What am I going to talk about? Ginger and I were laughing about that right before we hopped on, but then you just get into the groove and you're like, wait, I do this every day, and I love talking about it. So everyone has I think, a lot of knowledge here that they can share with the group.
Absolutely. Well, I highly encourage everyone after this webinar to also reach out to you and let you know, maybe some things that they learned, or maybe they can share some tips with you as well. And we can just keep all of this going. So
Seriously, if there's something you saw that you're like, you missed this, or you should hit this, please reach out. I know Ginger circulated our information. Also, anytime, if you have questions, you run into a roadblock, please feel free to contact me. I love working with attorneys and paralegals and firms, and just, I'm learning myself, and we're all constantly growing in that knowledge that we have. So please feel free to reach out.
absolutely. And I know you're based out of Austin, Texas.
Yes.
But I know that you travel across the country. So I know you'll be running into and meeting a lot of our different attorneys and paralegals and staff. So I hope that everyone will definitely come up and say hello as well.
And if you're ever in Austin, you want to grab some coffee or something, let me know. And I'm always here and happy to chat about fun legal topics, which isn't maybe fun for the general public, but I love it. It's a great time.
We will definitely have you back soon. This was a lot of fun. And I can't thank you enough for being here today. Everybody who's still with us watching, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. And also be sure to go to the Connectionology YouTube channel. I will be posting this webinar up there, but you can also go back and look at some of our other paralegal laboratories that we've done in the past, over the years since 2020. Those are great to watch as well. And I do have another one coming up soon. It's a good one too. We got Doug Beam coming back. I know a lot of you guys miss him. He's been working on a lot of cases lately on Melbourne, Florida, but he's coming back as a moderator because all of the paralegals from Satch Oliver's law firm will be joining us. And I think you met some of the ladies in Texas, Shivangi.
Yes.
So they're coming back with a great presentation, and that will be very soon. So
awesome. I'm excited to watch and tune in.
All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Thanks again to all of our partners, OnPoint, HMR, Fox AE, Walker Advertising. You guys are great. And you guys watching are so sweet. Thank you for being so supportive.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.